By the spring of 1945, Europe was reduced to rubble. Millions of lives were lost, and at the heart of that global destruction, one name echoed as the architect of the horror: Adolf Hitler. Yet, the Führer's story is not that of a king born to power. He was a failed World War I corporal, a rejected artist surviving on scraps. He was a nobody. This begs history's most crucial question: how? How did a man with no degree, no wealth, and no initial political appeal manage to seize control of a nation and ignite the deadliest conflict the world has ever known? This is not just a timeline. This is a deep dive into how economic crisis, mass despair, and a chilling grasp of psychological manipulation converged in a single man to forge the 20th century's most lethal tyranny, from the crowded, poor streets of Vienna to the final bunker in Berlin. This is the complete and brutal story of the rise of Adolf Hitler. Prepare yourself as we explore this deep dive into WW2 history. Adolf Hitler's story does not begin on the political stage, but in a small Austrian village. Born in 1889, his childhood was defined by conflict with his father, Alois, an ambitious and highly authoritarian customs official who demanded conformity. Young Adolf, artistic and deeply rebellious, clashed frequently with this rigid authority figure. This defiance against his father's will was the first seed of his later opposition to any established power. His school years were marked by repeated failure. He was unmotivated, often clashing with teachers, and showed interest only in his sole passion: painting and drawing. His absolute ambition was to become a great artist, a dream vehemently opposed by his father. After his parents' deaths, he moved to Vienna, fully committed to this one goal, only to be brutally rejected twice by the Academy of Fine Arts. Vienna, the grand, cosmopolitan city, became a crucible of humiliation. Denied his artistic path, penniless, and forced to sleep in men's hostels, he survived by selling his mediocre hand-painted postcards. This period of poverty and isolation was deeply traumatic, turning his personal failure into a profound resentment against society itself. It was here, amidst the harsh, polarized environment of Vienna, that Hitler found refuge in extreme ideologies. Exposed to radical pamphlets, he began to absorb and internalize virulent anti-Semitism and pan-German nationalism. The bitter, rejected artist found a new, destructive purpose, blaming outsiders for his misfortunes and for the perceived decay of society. This phase concluded with Hitler as a man already filled with intense hatred and a powerful, misplaced sense of destiny. His humiliation was complete, but his rage was now fueled by an ideology. He was not a politician, but a radicalized individual ready for a transformative event, and that event would soon arrive: the Great War. For the directionless young man consumed by rage, the outbreak of World War I in August 1914 was not a tragedy, it was a salvation. Hitler saw the war as a cleansing fire and a chance to escape the squalor of Vienna. He volunteered immediately for the Bavarian army, joining the 16th Bavarian Reserve Infantry Regiment. Despite his Austrian citizenship, Hitler served as a Meldegänger, a dispatch runner, APTD, role both dangerous and isolated. His wartime experience was intense and, for him, strangely fulfilling. He was highly decorated, earning the Iron Cross Second Class, and, later, the prestigious Iron Cross First Class, a rare honor for an ordinary corporal. He was fiercely dedicated, disciplined, and found the camaraderie of trench warfare to be the community he had never known in civilian life. But the war did more than just provide purpose. It solidified his extremist worldview. Unlike many comrades who grew cynical, Hitler idealized the war, seeing the defeat of Germany not as a military failure, but as an act of betrayal from within, the infamous stab-in-the-back myth. This myth, propagated by right-wing extremists, claimed that communists and Jews had sabotaged the German war effort on the home front. The defeat of 1918 was an unbearable psychological shock. While recovering from a mustard gas attack that temporarily blinded him, he received the news of Germany's surrender. The subsequent collapse of the monarchy and the birth of the democratic Weimar Republic filled him with furious contempt. He viewed this new, fragile democracy as illegitimate, weak, and imposed by the victors. The Treaty of Versailles, with its devastating reparations and territorial losses, became the physical manifestation of the shame he felt. Discharged from the army, Hitler remained in Munich, a city simmering with political resentment. The military tasked him with observing small political gatherings. It was during one of these meetings, a small, obscure group called the German Workers' Party, that he discovered his true, terrifying talent. Spurred by their nationalist rhetoric, he stood up and delivered an extemporaneous speech of raw, furious passion. The power of his voice, fueled by years of pent-up resentment, captivated the room. He had finally found his calling, not as an artist, but as an orator and a manipulator of the masses. Having discovered his potent ability to move an audience, Hitler quickly took control of the obscure German Workers' Party, DAP, and rebranded it as the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazi Party. He designed the infamous flag and adopted the Führerprinzip, leader principle, demanding absolute loyalty to himself as the supreme leader. His speeches were electric, drawing large crowds in Munich and providing the disillusioned public with simple scapegoats for their national shame. Communists, liberals, and especially the Jews, by 1923, feeling bold and believing the Weimar government was on the brink of collapse, Hitler decided to act. He attempted the beer hall putsch, a violent coup d'etat to seize power in Bavaria and march on Berlin. Surrounded by his fledgling paramilitary wing, the SA, the attempt quickly dissolved into a street gunfight with the police. The putsch was a complete, humiliating failure. Hitler was arrested, charged with high treason, and the Nazi Party seemed finished. Yet, his failure proved to be a pivotal turning point. During his comfortable time in Landsberg prison, Hitler dictated his political manifesto and autobiography, Mein Kampf, My Struggle. This book was a sprawling, unfiltered blueprint of his destructive ideology, outlining his radical anti-Semitism, his belief in the superiority of the Aryan race, his Lebensraum, living space, plan to conquer Eastern Europe, Sitt Tomal Landraun, and his utter contempt for democracy. It transformed him from a local demagogue into an ideologist. Released early in 1924, Hitler realized violence would not work. He announced a profound shift in strategy. Take power legally. He would use the democratic processes, elections and coalition, building, to destroy democracy from within. The period from 1924 to 1929 was characterized by the rebuilding of the Nazi Party infrastructure, focusing on grassroots organization, youth leagues, and propaganda to gain respectability while never abandoning the core. Extremist goals outlined in Mein Kampf. Despite the organized efforts, the Nazis remained a marginal political force throughout the mid-1920s, a period of relative prosperity in Germany. Hitler and his party were simply waiting for the right moment. They needed a new, massive crisis, a national upheaval that would destroy public faith in the fragile Weimar Republic and send desperate voters straight into the arms of the radical extremes. That catalyst arrived with horrifying precision in 1929. The Wall Street crash and the Great Depression. Just as Hitler anticipated, the massive crisis arrived. The Wall Street crash in 1929 triggered the Great Depression globally. For Germany, the impact was catastrophic. American investments were withdrawn, factories closed down, and millions were instantly unemployed. The unemployment rate soared to 6 million. Public faith in the Weimar democracy utterly collapsed. Amidst this chaos, the Nazi Party offered a simple and powerful solution: blame the internal enemies and promise order, jobs, and the restoration of national pride. Hitler, the master orator, used massive rallies to channel public despair into anger. In every election, their results skyrocketed. From just 2.6% of the vote in 1928, they leaped to 18% in 1930, peaking at 37% in 1932, making them the largest party in Germany. Despite being the largest party, Hitler was not yet chancellor. President Paul von Hindenburg and the conservative political elite, including politicians like Franz von Papen, viewed Hitler as a controllable threat. They genuinely believed they could tame Hitler, granting him the chancellorship, prime minister, and smothering his radical ideology by boxing him into a conservative-dominated cabinet. On January 30th, 1933, in what the elites considered a clever political maneuver, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. They were profoundly wrong. Within less than a month, in February 1933, the German Parliament building, the Reichstag, caught fire. The Nazis immediately blamed the Communist Party for the blaze, despite questionable evidence. Hitler swiftly used the fire as a pretext to convince Hindenburg to sign the Reichstag fire decree, effectively suspending all civil liberties in Germany. The final step came in March 1933 with the passing of the Enabling Act. This law, pushed through with coercion and threats, allowed Hitler's cabinet to enact laws without the approval of Parliament. In 2 short months, the Weimar democracy was dead. Adolf Hitler had assumed total power, legally. He was no longer chancellor. He was a dictator, and the world had yet to see the worst of him. With the Enabling Act secured, Hitler moved to eliminate any remaining threats. The main internal rival was the SA, Sturmabteilung, the massive brown-shirted paramilitary wing that had brought him to power. Their leader, Ernst Röhm, was seen as a threat by both the military and Hitler. In June 1934, in a brutal purge known as the Night of the Long Knives, Hitler's SS silenced the SA leadership and countless political opponents. The military now pledged an oath of personal loyalty directly to Hitler. The SA was neutralized, the army was bound, and Hitler had eliminated internal dissent using lethal force. Just weeks after the purge, President Paul von Hindenburg died. Hitler immediately merged the offices of Chancellor and President, declaring himself the Führer, leader, and Reich Chancellor. This act formalized his absolute dictatorship. There was now no legal or political check on his power. Every institution, the government, the military, the police, was subordinated to his will. The dream of the failed artist was complete. He was the supreme, unquestioned ruler of Germany. With total power secured, the final goal outlined in Mein Kampf could begin: rearmament and expansion. Hitler withdrew Germany from the League of Nations, publicly repudiated the Treaty of Versailles, and began rapid, massive military buildup, the Wehrmacht. The economy was fully geared towards war production, erasing unemployment by converting laborers into soldiers or factory workers. The goal was to secure Lebensraum, or living space, for the Aryan race in the East, initiating the conquest that would inevitably lead to global conflict. In just 10 years, the homeless artist from Vienna had become the Führer of a rearmed, ruthless Germany, ready to tear up the map of Europe. His personal failures had fueled a national catastrophe. His relentless drive, fueled by ideological hate, had successfully hijacked an entire nation. The rise of Adolf Hitler was complete. The world would never be the same.